Good morning, everybody. I'm John Miles. I'm the CEO of the New Zealand Marketing Association. A lot of you might already know me, which is absolutely wonderful. And it's my distinct pleasure today to welcome you to the first ever webinar that we're doing in partnership with UC Berkeley out of San Francisco. For those of you who don't know UC Berkeley, it is an absolutely first-rate, fabulous university based in San Fran with an amazing history. I was lucky enough to attend it for a workshop about 10 years ago, and it is just sensational. And for the first time ever here in New Zealand, we've actually partnered with UC Berkeley, and in fact, we're the first professional association outside of America that UC Berkeley have actually partnered with before. Now, the part of UC Berkeley that we're working with is Berkeley Global. And Berkeley Global is a fantastic unit. And what's so great about them is that all of the people who teach on their courses are what I call pracademics. They both work in industry and they work and they teach as well. And we've put this association together so we can offer a number of Berkeley Global's online courses through the Marketing Association. And with the marketing, all of these courses, if you click into our website, you'll find them off our homepage. And there's things on digital marketing, digital analytics, and for the first time in New Zealand, a complete course on UX design. So it's a little bit like a regular university paper. You work for a semester, quite different to our workshops, which are one day. So they're very complementary. I've got the distinct pleasure now of introducing Frederick Wehrle, who's the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at Berkeley University. Frederick's just got this amazing CV. He's worked for the Center of Global Engagement of Planet Education and Universities of France. He's been at the International Relations at Group EDC, served as academic director at Group IGGS, and it just keeps going on and on. Wow. So Frederick, and Frederick specializes in innate human behavior and is an expert in academic innovation and design, hence why he's working with us. At Berkeley, he's developing fully integrated transdisciplinary study programs that allow students and lifelong learners to acquire the specific skill set they need to succeed in the upcoming fourth industrial revolution. So if we're all here, we'd give you a big New Zealand welcome with a big cheering and clapping, Frederick, and I'll pass on to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, for the introduction. That's super kind. We are indeed super excited to collaborate with you. Our department, as you mentioned, is very deeply devoted to training people of all age groups and extending basically the research, the academic knowledge into, at the beginning, into the Californian reality, into the job market, into all types of industries, but also actually through this work that our department has been doing now for 130 years. So within the world, we're one of the earliest education institutions that has built an arm and a dedicated department to train people of all ages and adult and lifelong learners. By doing so now, we have actually, over the last 20 years, extended all of this internationally, have reached out to partner institutions, universities worldwide. And as you just mentioned, now we are beginning to extend this really to our thought partners and peers in professional education that are mostly actually associations. And as you know, Silicon Valley, the San Francisco Bay Area being such a hub for innovation and such a dynamic place in terms of everything that is marketing, notably digital marketing, the automation that is driven here by all the new technologies, the AI, the blockchain, the cloud computing, the data analytics, all of this happening here is a wonderful experiment that we really love to share with people around the world. And by connecting with experts such as yourself, to learn as well on our side, to be in contact and bring together in classrooms people and experts, professionals from around the world, so that that magic of the classroom happens, that engagement, that exchange of know-how, of expertise, of practice. And that's something that we are absolutely passionate about, and therefore we're very thankful and excited to be collaborating with experts like your to be able to extend our offering into your network. And we're very curious and looking forward for more engagement and more knowledge that we can gain from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Frederick. That's fantastic. And one of the amusing things when we first started getting these programs together was that the folk at Berkeley asked me, they said, oh, look, when we're offering some of the courses through you, all of our case studies that we put in here are from Silicon Valley. Do you think New Zealand marketers will mind that? And I said, oh, I think they might like that. It should be okay. So, and one of the exciting things with that is our special guest facilitator today, Rinoti Amin, who's the Director of Online Growth and Engagement and Retention at Malware Bytes, is well and truly in the middle of Silicon Valley at Santa Clara. And just talking with Rinoti before the webinar, I was trying to organize a trip for next year where we can take senior marketers up into Silicon Valley. But Rinoti has just got an amazing CV. She has a deep passion for growing marketing functions with a hyper focus on delighting the customers. And prior to this, she was at PayPal for a decade, growing the digital marketing strategy function for the international region, where she implemented growth hacking techniques for acquisition and engagement. That sounds pretty dangerous. And prior to that, she led brand identity function at Logitech, and Rinoti, our new camera, is from there. So the company is good and strong here in New Zealand. And she's also worked with various NGOs in the US. And look, if any of you have questions for Rinoti, please put them into the chat function, and I'll get to them at the end. First questions in are the first questions asked. So be quick. So please, Rinoti, we would give you a big New Zealand welcome as well. And we're really looking forward to your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well. It's I am amazed that we can do this from miles apart. So let me get started. So today marketing, the field of marketing and digital marketing has definitely been impacted by COVID-19. And as we went into this, into the lockdowns across the world, there were things that within the space of marketing, things started changing. And some of these things are going to be here. They will stay. We will, today we'll talk about how we've been impacted in the field of digital marketing, and also some of the trends we see emerging through this time when businesses adapted to COVID-19, and what we think will continue to stay post-COVID. So without much ado, I wanted to share this one slide. This is the slide from Domo. It's Data Never Sleeps. You can find it online. And essentially what they're doing is they're looking across, tracking how much data is being created, how much has been created, is being created by consumers and being consumed. And this gives you a sense as to the importance of being able to harness this digital data and use it for our marketing purposes and for our engagement purposes. So this particular Domo infographic was put out in August. And it definitely, you started seeing some of the impact that COVID was having since March when everything started shutting down. Even before COVID, our lives were changing. We were generating a whole bunch of data. With COVID, it completely exploded. 60% of the world's population has access to the internet, and 4.2 billion are active on mobile. Almost 4 billion are active using social media. So that just tells you how much data is being created and consumed. With COVID, our workplaces moved to virtual addresses, and hashtag work from home, WFH, was, has been here to stay. Pre-quarantine, when we looked at the US market, roughly 15% worked from home. And now that number has risen to 50%. So you're going from 15 to 50. And we all know the Zoom story, the video conferencing company that we are using today. They saw a particular sharp increase in their users, where their daily app sessions exploded from just more than 2 million in February to 7 million in March, and more than 200,000 people meeting every minute. So it just tells you the enormous impact. And again, all this is digital data. Our learning, as we are doing today, our interactions, our learning, formal and informal, shifted to online. School assignments were being handed out on Google Classroom. Meetings were happening on Zoom or Google Handouts, Microsoft Teams. Also, the lifelong learning platforms, the e-platforms, just shot up in popularity. Everyone was stuck at home, and therefore it wasn't just an aspect of learning and shifting learning that was happening to online, but now people had a whole bunch of time, and they wanted those connections. They wanted to use this time, or still do want to use this time productively. And so a lot of people have taken on to learning platforms to pick up a new skill or to learn a new language, concentrate on their hobbies. We also look at groceries, meals, and other physical goods that are greeting us at our doorsteps. So when we look at the Domo infographic, consumers spend about 1 million shopping online every minute of the day. And Amazon is shipping about 7,000 packages that every minute of the day. Diners in the US are ordering about 600 meals via DoorDash every minute of the day. That just tells you how everything has shifted. Same thing with health and telemedicine and online workouts. Telehealth adoption increased by nearly 15% in primary care. And 83% of these patients expected to use telemedicine even after the pandemic resolves. Yoga classes moved on to Zoom. So just a quick example. My husband, in his day job, he's an accountant. By what he would like to do, he's a yoga instructor. And so he would have a few classes at the local gym or the local studio. He would also go and do classes at school or private classes. Well, with the pandemic coming on, everything shut down. And very soon he had to shift his entire practice to online, and started figuring out ways to navigate shifting something that is so hands-on, so physical, to now online, and providing that interaction to his clients. A lot of his studios shifted online as well. You start seeing Peloton just completely taking off during this time, where it's giving people the opportunity to continue with their health routine, but still giving them that connection and that motivation that they need. Another, one to think about is Headspace, the meditation app, completely grew tenfold because of the pandemic. And as we think, lastly, like as all of our socialization and our vacations started playing out on screens, here in the US, a lot of things have been shut down, and especially in California. So while you can go outdoors, a lot of the socialization has still been extremely stinted, extremely socially distanced, and vacations are just something that we've kind of given up this year. And what we've seen is that people are striving, they are hungry, are desperate for connection. We saw like Google Duo, again, an online connection platform, grew 12.4% from January to March, during the early days of pandemic. WhatsApp has seen a 51% jump. Now, mind you, over the last month, with Facebook announcing its new regulations, that has dropped. But for the most part, during the pandemic, it rose 51%. House Party, which hosts virtual parties that you can all go and enjoy, play some music, and still feel like you're part of a house party, that jumped 79% from January. And then, essentially you moved away from Netflix and chill to curl up with quarantine. And Netflix, all your streaming, entertainment streaming apps, your gaming apps, basically took off during this time. And another one that we'll talk about is, as vacations started playing out from the screens in the homes, a new ways of providing these experiential engagement started rising. Airbnb started, Airbnb has a bunch of different experiences that it sells to you when you're in a new place, when you're vacationing with them. They started now shifting some of those experiences to virtual. So you could connect with a host in another country and learn about that country. They would walk around their city, their place. And then Amazon has now come in. They launched a pilot, a beta version in the fall, in our fall. So in October, they launched a beta version called Amazon Explore. And I'll again talk a little bit about that as we talk about this. But again, this was all about having these experiential engagement interactions from the comfort of your home. As our behaviors change, they are impacting the businesses and how businesses manage their engagements, their brand, their interactions and communications with their customers. They really need to, companies were already on a trajectory of embracing digital transformation. We've been hearing this concept of digital transformation for a few years now. And some companies are obviously well and beyond and mature with their digital transformation. And some companies have not been that mature and have been lagging behind, especially those who were more dependent on physical situations, physical selling. Well, all these companies during the pandemic have had to shift online. They've had to adopt digital platforms for promotions, for giving a better customer experience, for nurturing their leads through multiple channels online. And so as you think about what happens to marketing and digital marketing as we emerge from the pandemic, is that all these companies who have now shifted and have sped up, accelerated their digital transformation, they're going to be there to stay. they are now going to start understanding and investing in those digital channels. Digital transformation has been a necessity for survival. And as we think about how these companies now have had to unify and consolidate data from sales, from marketing, their customer service, operations, everything, all of that, which even in the past, if they didn't have it in a digital format, they weren't doing it online. They would, even if the dentist office who was doing it face to face, the small little accounting firm that had its team right there. Well, all of these guys have shifted and they've had to now figure out how to unify and consolidate all this data. The other aspect is also, the other shift that is coming on is as you move most of these operations and your data online, you're going to have to also shift to having a more holistic CRM in place. And CRM has been transformational in marketing and sales. So how do we make sure that we are sharing the right information with the different teams so that we can take a customer through the different journey of their customer decision journey, take them through that journey, give them the relevant content at the right time, and bring that experience together. That is another piece that is going to drive success for companies who do well. And the third shift that we are seeing, we were already seeing some of these shifts, but they're just playing out at a much more accelerated and a much more widespread manner now. But the third shift that we see is AI and ML, so artificial intelligence and machine learning powered tools. More and more as data is getting, just exploding, it's becoming harder to depend on tools that don't have some of this adoption of intelligence in there. And so even if you have some basic automation, when you start now bringing in some of the machine learning or AI tools to help make those decisions and drive those decisions faster, it just allows the companies to move their teams from being more hands-on to actually letting some of the lower level decisioning be automated, and they can focus on more strategic aspects. So as the companies are shifting, marketers are being forced to change their strategies as well. And some of the, we'll go through some of these strategies, but essentially what we've had to do is, one is really embrace interactive content. Now, interactive content has become extremely important for providing this alternative customer experience. People, like I said, people are dying for interaction, and interactive content was already coming into its popularity, into its being. But with COVID, it has really made it even more valuable. So as we think about this, it's essential for, like I said, providing that alternate customer service, customer experience. There are 360 videos that real estate uses now, so that you can do a lot of your shopping from the or even a lot of your exploration, the pre-shopping when you're thinking about a home, from the comfort of your home by looking at these 360 videos. There's a lot of ARVR that is enabled within the content so that you can have this really rich experience. Shoppable posts, quizzes, polls, there's all this amazing content that is actually not one way, but more interactive, providing this enriched experience. As we think about shoppable posts, Instagram has become a search engine for consumer interests and communities. And one data point is 60 to 75% of Instagram users say that they've taken an action after seeing an ad posted. The next trend, when you think about this interactive content, is chatbots. As we've moved away from having physical interactions, chatbots have become more and more important. They were already starting to be an important piece. And with COVID and businesses and small businesses moving online, they started now depending more and more on chatbots to enable that first interaction with their customers and to enable lead nurturing. Drift, which is a kind of a leader in having what is considered conversational marketing, basically enables chatbots on your website and allows you to have intelligence in those chatbots. Drift posted record sales in Q4. They just posted their information. I want to say just earlier this week, and they posted record sales that completely just blew everyone out of the gate when thinking about integrating these chatbots. The other aspect is cause marketing. So when you start thinking about the trends, when you think about the polarized climate that we have, not just in the US. In the US, we have an extremely polarized social and political climate, but I would say around the world, we've had this climate that's extremely polarized, and now cause marketing is extremely important. Brands that show empathy, brands that are tied to the social and the political orientation of these millennials and Gen Zs are becoming the to-go brands. And you can see this in how the US corporations responded to the insurrection that we had a couple weeks ago in the US. The corporations were the ones who basically started taking a stand. And part of that is that they have to start showing that they are empathetic brands. They are in line with where these millennials and Gen Z's sensibilities lie. The other one to start thinking about is online communities. And so we've had an explosion of online communities to keep people engaged before and after and during events. So when you think about events, right, there was such a huge business around having marketing events, PR events, trade events. All of that shifted online. But there became, and just like we're having this particular event would have been in person, and now we've had to shift it online. Well, the thing about just moving it on Zoom or moving it on YouTube is not sufficient. There is now an explosion of having interaction and engagement before, during, just like you guys are going to ask questions and we're going to answer those questions. And then continuing that community after the events too. And then lastly, there is, user-generated content was a big part of content in the past, but recently, especially with the emergence of TikTok and how TikTok has grown, we've had a new trend. It's all about remixing user-generated content. And the concept behind remixing this user-generated content is the ability to choose content from different places, put it together, and it is you don't have to worry about it being syndicated, etc., because it's now your unique social content that you've created. So just to give you a couple examples, I apologize for the images. I was pulling them off the web and they were a little low res. But Zillow, I talked about the 360 tour. Zillow is a online real estate platform in the US. It's Seattle based, and it started accelerating, as everything started shutting down in the US. real estate initially completely tanked because people were afraid to go and do home tours. People were afraid to open up their homes to, strangers coming in. And so all the postings, the real estate postings tanked. People who were interested in it tanked, but for a very short time. If you keep up with the news, there's an explosion of real estate at this point. And part of that was how the market quickly shifted. Zillow accelerated the rollout of self-tour technology. So as a home seller, I can actually just, with these tools that Zillow had, that I can just take my phone, and set up this self-guided tour and upload that to the platform. And this allowed shoppers and agents the ability to view the house, to look at it, do all this research online without having to actually go and tour the house during the outbreak. So when you think about it, this is a tool that was created more out of necessity, but it's going to be a tool that is going to stay, and it's going to change how we research home buying, how a home buying behavior and the research that we do changes. We're not going to be going and spending our weekends looking after open houses after open houses. A lot of this is going to shift online. And then very late down in the purchase decision process, are we going to actually go out there? Airbnb, in a sense, has also started adopting this self-tour 3D tour, and it's adopted this onto their platform as well, so that people can get a much better sense of what the rentals look like. We talked about UGC, right? Tik Tok is this UGC remixing that they do. Basically, when we think about, borrowing content that is already out there, mixing it together, extracting parts of that, and creating something new. And this is the new trend that is just going out there. And as a brand, we have to think about, how do we put out content that can be taken, borrowed, remixed by the users, and create much richer UGC, user-generated content. And so this is all about, how do you build virality with your brand content? Another one, talking about the chatbot, was, Replica is an online conversational platform, and it got its largest monthly gain in April, in the height of the shutdowns, largest monthly gain in its 3-year history. Traffic to the app nearly doubled, and people were just interested in companionship. And so you see this is a AI generated bot, and you're having conversations with it. So even as you think about, the other example that I gave you is more of a pragmatic example, which is Keat Health. Keat Health is an online patient engagement and communications platform. And with COVID, when all the outpatient services shut down, they had to move these contacts between patients and caregivers. They had to move it to an online platform. And Keat Health uses Drift chatbot to actually power some of these connections. So they saw an increase, and Drift allowed them to actually have this scalable platform. So that's a pragmatic one. But the top one, Replica, is not even, you would think, like, would people even go for such a, want to talk to a chatbot just because they want to have relationship? And you start seeing that, yes, with Replica, yes, there is a market for it. The other thing that we started seeing was, we talked about, kind of touched upon this when we talked about interactive content. So I'm going to focus in on AR and VR. One metric out there is that by 2022, so by next year, 70% of enterprises will be experimenting with immersive technologies. So this AR, VR is seen as immersive technologies. They'll start experimenting, and 25%, which is huge, 25% of enterprises will have productionalized it, which is that they will have included this as part of their technology stack. The first bullet out here is next gen personalization. Is, we talk about personalization as marketing, where it's like, oh, we've got content that makes sense. It's got your, it's got some data points from your behaviors, and we are going to give you some personalization around it. And so we have been doing some personalization already. Well, next gen personalization is going to be focused on deep data insights. And so today, where a lot of our personalization might be more at a larger segment level, we're going to have a lot more one-on-one personalization, because we're going to be able to get to those deep insights. We are also going to be moving away from, a lot of personalization done by third-party cookies. And as we start moving into a cookieless world, which is going to happen over the next year or two, right? Apple has talked about its new privacy policy. Google has announced its privacy policy, but they've just been pushing out some of those dates. But essentially, we are moving away from having a lot of cookie-based tracking. And so as marketers, where most of our advertising today is based on those cookies, our personalization is based on those third-party cookies, we're going to be moving and shifting to more first and zero-party data. And using machine learning to actually drive the right content, and not just the right content and the right channel like we do today, but also the right sequence of events that will lead to this, basically an automated path to conversion. So think about, when you think about like these predictive analytics, we're going to move more from even predictive analytics to prescriptive analytics. And we are going to be using those in our decision making. The other aspect, we talked about chatbots, and chatbots are getting even more, they're going to help with more and more personalization. They're going to help increase sales and enhance the experience. And we're going to use more and more AI within the chatbots. There's a university in Northern California, I think it's called Antioch University, and they had piloted an AI chatbot to actually talk to new prospects, new students, prospective students. And their chatbot was so, they included AI and ML into that chatbot, that it was almost human-like, to the point where they said that as students signed up and they came to orientation, they were asking for the chatbot. And I think the chatbot was named Sarah or something. And they were asking for her, like, where is she? I want to talk to her. And so you can understand how AI can drive this conversation and make it seamless. In remote settings, the AR and VR are providing an alternative experience for tactile and social experiences as well. So Facebook and Snapchat have been investing in augmented reality capabilities to boost their selling and their marketing. I talked about Amazon Explore, where they are basically giving a live stream experience where they're selling travel. You can buy, basically if I were out there in New Zealand, maybe, go and take a tour around the city, Christchurch, take a tour around there, and someone locally would basically use their phone, use the Amazon Explore platform, and allow me to experience this. I can also shop. So I can go and do shopping in Istanbul in the Grand Bazaar. Or I can learn how to cook Peruvian food with someone in Lima. And I can do that all from the comfort of my home. The other aspect that is going on is something as basic as lunch meetings. Sales have had to shift their, they can't go and have meetings, lunches with potential customers. And so they've had to shift to online. And something as low tech as, hey, we're going to do a sales meeting on Zoom, but I'm going to also, through Uber Eats, I'm going to send you food, the lunch. I'm going to send the lunch to you to your place. So while you and I are chatting and you're watching my presentation, I know that if I keep you busy with your hands and you're eating, you're happier. You're not going to be clicking your mouse and going over to something else or looking over stuff on your phone, and you're going to pay attention to me. So something, as low tech as that is another tactic that people have used. Another piece that will start becoming obsolete, it will take a little bit of time, but A/B testing, all of us have been more and more doing A/B testing, and you hear about, we must A/B test our subject lines in our emails or content in the emails. We must do an A/B test of our website and see which one converts better. As people start incorporating AI into their sites, into their digital operations, A/B testing is going to be rendered obsolete, because decisions are going to be made not because one did better than the other, but the decisions are going to be made learning on what works, what doesn't, and it's going to be a black box. At Malwarebytes, we've actually shifted to part of this. On our website, we've integrated a solution called Intellimize, and they essentially have a bunch of algorithms that they run and they learn based on conversion, metrics that we've put out there, and they learn from that. And we don't know why something converts better, what experience someone has seen, but we know that they're seeing the best experience. And the last one is voice assistant. So voice assistant is going to drive, more and more it's driving discovery, and not only discovery of content, but also things like setting appointments. So Alexa, Google Home, people are starting to, not just ask about, is Target open right now? Or when does it close? Or what's the weather outside? But also like, hey, can you set up an appointment for the doctors at X, Y, and Z, and things like that. Here is an example of Amazon Explore, where they have all these different experiences that they are selling through, the comfort of your homes. Hublot is another brand. It's a high-end Swiss watch brand. It was, because it was high-end, it kind of shied away from e-commerce because they felt like it's not the best experience. But because of COVID, they had to shift online. And essentially what they did was they created digital boutique. They had a Skype interaction where sales through Skype had a personalized tour of the different models with people. And so now you're starting to see a human augmented digital solution. Inverse just won at the CES that took place a couple weeks ago, won Innovation Award because it's focused on live holograms and 3D representations. So your luxury brands can create even more striking, immersive virtual stores. So here's an example of like Farfetch put out this augmented retail vision, where they're personalizing. So this is taking personalization to another extreme, to a different concept, where you're getting information about your customers, and you're augmenting that with human touch. And now you're creating online and offline data together so that you can give a personalized experience. So kind of inventing what they say is a physical cookie. The next piece over here is SEO. The next trend that we're going to see is user, search behavior has been impacted like significantly during COVID. There have been fluctuations, especially earlier on in keyword rankings and improvements. Google has been spending more and more time, adjusting the algorithms, and they will continue to make improvements as people's searches start shifting. They had to be reworked as they learned what people were searching for and user intent. And so we as digital marketers also have to start looking and revisiting our user and search intent, because human, not only search behavior has shifted, but those algorithms are also shifting. Local businesses and businesses near me, all of that initially during the pandemic started dropping as people stopped going. But something else that started coming up over the last few months has been curbside pickups or hours during the pandemic. Google, if you notice, has started giving more and more information so that you have a little more latest information on how is the business open, is it, what the policies are, or do they offer curbside pickup, and so forth. Certain industries we know were negatively impacted, so people are doing less searches on travel, hospitality, etc. And other industries have shot up the roof. Keywords around health and wellness, stress, remote life are seeing sustained increases. We also have to start thinking about the structured schema markup. You're going to start seeing different content formats that are being displayed. And so as SEO practitioners, they are going to have different content formats in there. And so you want to make sure that you have all of that implemented and the right level, right microdata for your website. And all in all, it's about optimizing your brand's entire digital presence. It's not just about the website. As we are connecting more and more, our social presence, our videos, website, and so forth, as they are getting more and more consumed, they become a search tool for us. And right here, voice search. So I talked about voice assistants. Well, voice search is one that is lagging behind, but that is of extreme value for marketers. And we have to think about how we optimize for voice search. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on social commerce, or s-commerce. And during the pandemic, this part of commerce, this part of digital marketing completely took off because people were they were hungry for social interactions, and they were utilizing their social platforms like crazy. When we looked at some metrics, majority of the respondents, they're sticking to the platforms that they know best. So if you're a Facebook person, you've increased your Facebook consumption, but it's the platform that you interact. But for all the people who tried out a new platform, a third of them picked up TikTok. And TikTok, where it was more geared towards your younger population, like my kids, were on Musical.ly before and picked up TikTok as it came out. It was still kind of, the young kids are doing these crazy things. And during the pandemic, the millennials, the older generations, the Gen Xs, all these folks picked up TikTok as a platform. And so out of all the new platforms, a third of them have gone to TikTok. And as we have these increased number of people on social media, it gives brands the opportunity to remind people, now that you cannot actually physically have this connection with people, you want to remind them of your brand's existence and make those connections with them. Social media has become a discovery engine for brands. And that's why I say, when we think about SEO, we also need to think about our digital presence as a whole, because as much as we go to Google, people are now also going to the social media platforms to search for stuff. 60% of people discover new products through Instagram. And I know the other metric said 75% of all Instagram users are clicking over as well, have had an interaction. E-commerce and social media are partnering up so that you make the social commerce the norm. And especially as you think about e-commerce sites that are selling non-essential things, they are creating these virtual storefronts on your Facebooks and Instagrams. There's chat commerce that is happening, there's live streaming, and I'll talk about these examples in a minute. And then there's a lot of short form video that is being created, because we are not into long form anymore. There's a lot of short form video that is being created, and actually it's interesting, it's at the detriment of YouTube. 36% of all internet users in the US say that social networks have become as important as other information sources when making those product choices. And then as you think about the social commerce opportunity that you start seeing on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Alipay, and now even WhatsApp. Here is where H&M basically turned their Instagram profile into a shoppable post. So all of their posts are now shoppable. They tag their products in the Instagram posts so that these users, from the 35 million followers that they have, they come, they can click over, they can make purchases within and stay within the Instagram platform itself. Next is this relationship that Pinterest has had with essentially BigCommerce and Shopify. BigCommerce and Shopify are your shopping carts, your market, basically enablers of these stores, online stores. And what basically Pinterest did was, we're going to have these rich pins that are buyable, that allow me as a marketer to connect my Pinterest with my Shopify. And I can basically create these pins about my product, and people can buy them directly. And the other aspect is, so Target, for example, reported a 70% increase in traffic from Pinterest when these rich pins were enabled. You can also do discoverability with these rich pins and buyable pins, and price notification. So if you reduce the price of your product or run a sale, people who've repinned your products, they'll get an alert notifying them of the price drop, and that can really prompt them, that can help you get your sales. Another one, which is closer to your side of the world, with this Taobao. Taobao live during the pandemic, as everything shut down, Taobao essentially removed barriers. They removed waived service fees for these brick and mortar merchants to join their platform and offer businesses this live streaming opportunity to live stream their products, their businesses, their services, etc. This particular experience, they are live streaming how these guys are actually fishing and how you can buy fish during the live stream. And with Alipay, essentially Alibaba basically is allowing, through Alipay, allowing you to, while you're watching this live streaming experience, allowing you to buy directly from those platforms. And so as a result, the number of merchants using Taobao Live increased by 719% in post February versus like January and early Feb. Okay, so amazing results. The next one is Pinduoduo. And this is, again, an e-commerce platform from your side of the world. And what it does is it integrates social components in with the traditional buying, traditional online. So they're creating this team shopping, group shopping model. And they are essentially, by sharing Pinduoduo's product information on social networks using WeChat or QQ, users can invite their contacts to form a shopping team. And if you think about it, this is like crowdsourcing or shopping in a group. And the more people you get on your shopping team, you get a lower price for your purchase. And you have this really dynamic shopping experience. So kind of like how gaming has become a spectator, online gaming has become a spectator sport. This is team shopping is basically becoming an interactive but a group shopping experience. And then, another one is Facebook. Facebook has launched ad unit. So it piloted this out, rolled this out some time ago in different markets, where it would allow you to, from your allow news feed ads that launched a chat in WhatsApp. So as you start thinking about how they were integrating Facebook and Instagram with their WhatsApp entities and allowing for this experience from ads to then actually sales. Now, it was planning on rolling out this functionality and expanded functionality globally. And recently it's received a sharp backlash, so they've put it on the back burner. But we know that they've already started rolling it out in some of the Asian markets. India, for example, they've already rolled out some of these ad experiences. And then TikTok. We talked about how it has exploded during COVID and basically is reaching 1 billion soon of active users. So, and 1 million in the US. And so it represents a huge opportunity for brands to make sure that you diversify your experience, you reach your audiences using social media, as well as get more engagement by having having these users play with your content, remix your content, and engage with you in unique ways. And so, one successful ad was like In My Denim, which, like, there are different ways of thinking about using TikTok. So you can do these hashtag challenges where basically based on the hashtag, you're going to have people creating their content and tagging your hashtag. And that essentially, as you think about, this In My Denim hashtag, for example, was one of its first kinds in the US. And you basically, the challenge encouraged users to post videos of themselves wearing ratty clothes and then transforming themselves into fashionable outfits that were guest branded. So right there, that's one aspect that you can do. Or you can have like these complete brand takeovers, and you can do them with top influencers, where when someone launches their app, you essentially have the first screen that they see is your content because you've done a brand takeover. You can also have top view ads, which is, again, they are ads that take over the entire screen, but they are not launched right away when you open the app. So there are different ways, or you can have newsfeed, like other social platforms have them in news feeds. So different ways you can think about using TikTok for advertisements and growing your brand. And the last one over here is the changes that we're going to see in PPC, in pay-per-click advertisements. So initially, when COVID first took on, Google and Facebook initially lost revenue. and businesses were cutting their marketing budgets in Q2. But what we saw was that in Q3, Q4, as people were able, small businesses especially, were able to transform their operations to digital. And as they became more comfortable with their digital presence, they started boosting their spend. And Facebook has seen an increase in their, in fact, Facebook has overtaken Google in terms of how people are spending online for advertisements. Conversions also initially started dropping because of changes in people's wallet sizes and interests. But then we've also seen that people have been a little bit fickle while they've shut down their wallets and their interest for a little bit. They have been opening up in other areas. So while they may not be spending as much, and we'll go into this, like some industries are not doing as well. So trying to advertise, like people have lost these platforms have lost advertisements from airlines and from hospitality industry because people aren't doing that. The conversion rates on those have dropped tremendously. But on the other hand, there are other industries like Peloton is advertising everywhere. There are many other industries in health, in interests, in clothing, especially certain types of clothing, have increased quite a bit. Yoga pants have increased, by the way. So companies that are looking at this whole aspect of fabletic, so athletic that looks fabulous, has increased. Constant optimizations are needed. So as these fluctuations come about and as behaviors are going to start changing, as things open up and shut down and people's wallets increase because of stimuluses being passed or not passed, they decrease. We're going to need constant optimization, and we are going to need that strong copy to really get their interest. And then local ads, service ads for home service providers to promote themselves have been one thing that has increased on Google, for example. So Google has been definitely working much harder to push these local service ads so that you can these service providers can really promote themselves because they've lost their brick and mortar presence. And then smart bidding. So AI is coming in here as well, and it's going to come in more and more. There's still work to be done in the smart bidding field. Google has launched its smart bidding, and more it's going to be focused on automating and adding more AI into this. But it's a black box. We don't understand it well. They are still experimenting with this, and over time, I would say, like, over the next year, as they experiment, as they tweak, we'll start actually understanding and realizing, getting the benefits of it. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rinoti. And hey, look, we've got some questions here.
Yeah.
So as someone in grocery FMCG, is the US still seeing high demand for online grocery delivery? Are they happy to go back to brick and mortar stores?
No, so I would say that people going to brick and mortar stores has increased, especially in from the early pandemic days. People are feeling a little bit more comfortable going back. They are doing shorter trips. They are doing pickup. So curbside pickup has taken on and taken off as these brick and mortar stores have figured out their operations and shifted their operations. But certain behaviors, I mean, people are they're doing a mix of home deliveries and in stores. Whereas before they might have just done going to the store, they've shifted definitely. It's a mix.
Yeah, great. Thank you. What are some of the AI and ML tools you would recommend?
I would say it's a mix. There are many, the landscape, I wish I had the graphic to show you, but if you Google MarTech landscape, chiefmartech.com puts out this every year, puts out this marketing landscape since I think the year 2013 or 2014. And the last landscape that they had was crazy, something like 800 different tools. I mean, not 800, 8,000 different tools that are out there that are serving the marketing tech landscape, different pieces. And that's another trend that we see. It's no longer these big martechs houses where like your Oracles and Adobes and Salesforce. People are opting for really getting the best for their business, and that integrates well with their needs.
The next two questions sort of interrelated. One said, the first is, are customers comfortable interacting with chatbots? And then the next question was, cost aside, do you think that virtual humans still have to get out of the, she said, the uncanny valley before there's widespread adoption?
So let me take the first one. So with chatbots, I think people are expecting the chatbot experience more and more as that initial contact. And at some point, that chatbot, depending on, if you get all your questions answered, people are very comfortable doing that. And at some point, there is that integration with the human. And that's where I say, like, it's definitely about online and offline human and machine interactions coming together. So I think that's actually becoming more and more the norm. I don't want to be on the phone talking to someone right away. If I can get my information answered quickly, great. If not, I want a seamless way where the chatbot connects me to a live person and gives me my answers.
Right. And next was someone from the higher education sector who said, do you have any suggestions for higher education sector in terms of new digital platforms or trends? I think you covered one of those in the presentation.
Yeah, so there are lots of platforms out there. When we start thinking about higher education, I think the pieces that we start actually, and even in my experience, and Frederick and I have talked about this quite a bit, is it's about how do we bring in asynchronous content and still the richness of human interaction. How do we find that place where the two connect so that you can have this rich experience for people? So what I've seen is more and more tools are coming out. It's just not about taking the lectures online, but it is about having a bunch of content that can be consumed at different times of the day by the student, and then moving the interactions to being more around discussions, conversations, etc.
Okay. Next one, I'm really interested in the answer to this one is, how do you overcome copyright issues challenges when implementing UGC, user-generated content, for those who didn't get the acronym earlier?
Right. So the thing that we've seen so far is, there are tools out there that people are starting to use to monitor how their content is being consumed and where they are seeing that. There are tools, especially in the media world, there are definitely tools on how that is being controlled and the meta tagging that goes behind it, the monitoring that goes in it. However, what I would say is that remixing is becoming so much the norm that at some point brands have to be able to give up some of their syndication, some of their control, some of their copyrights to allow for that user generated content. Because what is being created is completely unique. It's just taking elements of your content and putting it together.
I'm sure Ocean Fresh were very happy with the person's TikTok post
Exactly.
that they did with the Fleetwood Mac song. So someone's just asked what kinds of online platforms that can help to approach Africa market. I think the Africa market, it's so big in so many different countries. It depends whether you're going Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, etc., etc.
You know, I do not know the answer to that. I apologize. I will have to look it up.
Yeah. So this is the next one's quite an interesting one for me, because New Zealand's a bit smaller market. And I think it's like 80% or 90% of our market here in New Zealand, or we call SMEs, you know, small, medium enterprises. How accessible do you think these technologies are to SMEs? How do we decrease the cost of trialing these technologies?
So I think the whole aspect is that because the MarTech landscape has exploded, a lot of these tools are becoming more and more accessible to your SMEs, because you know, in the past you would have to have a whole bunch of money in order to get your HubSpots or your Salesforces or, you know, your Adobes. Because you have now these small players, you can really, and they're much more affordable. There are also a bunch of free or trial products that you can utilize. The platform that I would go to check out and do some of these comparisons would be the G2 platform. I don't know if you guys have heard of that platform. It's g2.com.
Okay.
Just Google it, go to G2, and it has all the different technologies that are out there, and you can choose marketing, and you can you know, for different parts of your business, you can start seeing what are the options and filter them by free or low cost or size, complexity, and so forth.
Next one was next gen personalization, automated path to conversion across one channel or multiple channels. I'm not sure what the question is.
It has to be over multiple channels.
Yeah.
It has to be personalization, because we as consumers of media are moving from our phones to our computers to our TVs to, you know, our streaming devices and so forth. Internet of Thing is a reality today. And so we have to have the personalization across. And a company that does it really well is Netflix. They've done personalization across devices well.
As long as your daughter doesn't click in and watch something on your profile.
Yeah, exactly.
Next one was social commerce is great, but how do we integrate social commerce to your CRM and then automate the customer's journey? Further issues if we have duplicates coming from e-commerce and then social.
So this is where it's becoming more and more important to have some kind of a CDP platform, right? A customer data management platform. And identity resolution is starting to become very, very important, especially as we move away from cookies in the next couple years. We will move away from cookies in the next couple years. So as we do that, we need to start thinking about how do we bring in identity resolution, whether it's through enriched data, through something like an Axiom that's collecting demographic data, you know, these data brokers that are buying private data from different places, accessing public data, and helping you then take that data and create and match it with your first party data and create those identities. In your stack, you need your CDP, your customer data management platform. And that's where your social data will come in, your e-commerce data will come in, your product data will come in, and you'll have this view. Again, not easy to do. Companies are still working on it, but there are some companies that are far ahead, some that are not.
And here in New Zealand, I think just, you know, with the likes of HubSpot and how you can integrate the social
Yes,
with
exactly.
what you're doing. I mean, we're just moving into that space ourselves. Two last quick ones. I'm interested to know the things of the things you've presented, what is best for a service-based industry, i.e. not FMCG or e-commerce? So I imagine they're talking professional services, that type of thing.
So for the professional services, and especially if you're looking at like B2B type of services, you have to start thinking, I mean, there is this fallacy in the sense that if I'm a B2B, I should not necessarily be on social. And that's a fallacy, because a lot of these businesses have social presence themselves, and you can reach out to them. The other aspect is to think about LinkedIn as one of your social sites, social channels. But more and more, when you think about services, account-based marketing is starting to become more and more important, where sales and marketing work really hand in hand to go after the right set of users. The definitions are set between sales and marketing on what is a prospect for marketing, what is a prospect for sales, and those definitions are set. And you use your social, you use lead nurturing for a lot of your marketing. And so your CRM is going to start becoming very important, and your handoffs from marketing to sales become important.
Yeah. And the last one was, have you seen any innovations in the charities space in the last 12 months?
We've seen innovation in the charity space, in the sense that a lot of the fundraising had to go online. A lot of the events that they had to do had to move online as well. So when you start looking at some of those experiences that, like, charities have had to figure out experiences to connect with their donors, as well as connecting with their volunteer bases.
Yeah. Alrighty, hey, well, that's a wrap. That's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Rinoti. It's there's so much in there. The old brain's exploding a little bit at the moment. There's so many interesting things. And look, if you're interested in the Berkeley courses, Rinoti oversees all the digital marketing. So pop onto the MA website and have a look there. Of course, we've just launched our own professional certifications in marketing. And of course, we've got some wonderful conferences coming up in the next couple of months. In March, we've got our first big one for the year, Smarter Data. So look, get on the website, get involved. And look, thank you so much, Rinoti. Thank you, Berkeley and Frederick. It's been an absolute blast. So thanks again, and everyone have a good rest of the day. Cheers.